Pathetic loser. That's what you are, my brother sneered across the mahogany table, the lawyer's voice still echoing the words, $1.4 million Miami mansion goes to Jacob. He smirked as though the ink of the will had been written by his hand alone. Hi everyone, my name is Claire Whitmore. I'm 27 years old. Today's story is titled, My Mom Left Me a Broken Cabin in Alaska. My brother got a $1.4 million mansion in Miami. My fiancé called me a pathetic loser and left me for him. In despair, I went to the cabin. Then I found something worth $500M. I sat frozen in that suffocating office, the ticking clock louder than my own pulse. The lawyer cleared his throat, shuffled the papers, and handed me a separate folder. Claire, he said softly, you've inherited the family cabin in Alaska. His eyes flickered with pity, as though he'd just given me a death sentence instead of an inheritance. The cabin, that splintered box in the middle of nowhere. No running water, no heat, just memories of my mother's last winters, cold and alone. Before I could breathe, another voice cut through me. My fiancé, Ethan, the man I thought would hold me when the world collapsed. He leaned closer, his whisper loud enough for everyone to hear. You can't even keep up with life. Look at you. A cabin? You're a joke, Claire. I can't do this anymore. His words stabbed sharper than the lawyer's pen. Jacob's laugh filled the silence. Ethan stood, removed the engagement ring from my trembling hand, and placed it back in its box like it was merchandise he regretted buying. Then he walked out, walked straight toward my brother's shadow, as if betrayal was his final vow. The lawyer avoided my eyes. Papers rustled. My fingers went numb. The office smelled like dust and polished wood, but all I could taste was metal, like blood I hadn't shed yet. I gathered the thin folder, its weight pathetic compared to the mansion keys clinking in Jacob's pocket. And yet, inside the humiliation, a strange whisper pulsed through me. Go north. To the cabin. I didn't know why. Not yet. But I felt it. Something waited for me there. Something bigger than betrayal. Something neither Jacob nor Ethan could ever touch. The flight to Anchorage was quiet, too quiet. My seatmate snored softly while the hum of the engines filled the silence Ethan had left behind. Every vibration of the plane rattled through my chest, but I stared out at endless clouds, wondering if they'd feel warmer than the cabin I was heading toward. When I landed, the air slapped me, crisp, biting, almost personal. The taxi driver looked at me in the rearview mirror when I gave him the address. His brow furrowed. That place? You sure, miss? Yes, I whispered, gripping the thin folder tighter. Hours later, the car stopped at the edge of a dirt path. Road ends here, he muttered. I stepped out, the crunch of snow beneath my boots echoing like judgment. I dragged my suitcase behind me, wheels catching in the ice, until the cabin appeared. It wasn't just broken, it was skeletal. The porch sagged. The windows were patched with cardboard. The door moaned when I pushed it open. Inside, dust curled in the cold air, and the floorboards protested with each step. I sat on the warped wooden chair, staring at the empty fireplace, and for the first time since Ethan left, I allowed myself to cry. The tears weren't loud. They slid quietly, pooling on the table until they froze into glassy beads. Mom had lived her last years here, alone, forgotten. Was this what she thought I deserved? Was this her way of punishing me for not being Jacob? I opened the folder again, just the deed, a yellowing map, and a small brass key taped to the inside flap. But no clue why Mom had chosen me for this. That night, wrapped in 2 coats and shivering on the broken cot, I heard the wind howl through the cracks like voices. And maybe it was exhaustion, maybe grief, but I swore I heard my mother's voice within the storm. Look deeper, Claire. It's all here. I sat up, heart pounding. My eyes fell on the map. A circle drawn in faded ink just beyond the tree line, half erased by time. The cabin wasn't the end of my inheritance. it was the beginning. The morning light cut through the thin curtains like a blade, forcing me awake. My breath came out in clouds, and the map still lay beside me, the faint circle pulling at me like gravity. I slipped the brass key into my coat pocket and stepped outside. The snow crunched underfoot, each step louder in the silence of the woods. Ravens shifted on bare branches, watching me as if they knew secrets. The circle on the map was less than a mile from the cabin, but it felt longer with every heartbeat pounding against the cold. At last I reached a clearing. There was nothing but a half-buried wooden hatch, weathered and disguised under branches. My fingers trembled as I brushed away the frost. A small lock glinted at me, its keyhole perfectly shaped for the brass key. The lock clicked. The hatch creaked. A draft of earth and dust rose up, sharp and ancient. I pulled it open to reveal narrow stairs descending into darkness. I hesitated. What am I doing? Ethan's voice tried to crawl back into my mind, mocking. Pathetic loser. Jacob's laugh rang alongside it. I closed my eyes, steadied my breath, and descended. The cellar smelled of oil and old paper. My flashlight beam danced across shelves lined with boxes, crates, and tin cans. But it was the steel trunk in the corner that froze me. Heavy, bolted shut, my mother's handwriting scrawled faintly across the lid. For Claire. My hands shook as I unlatched it. Inside lay stacks upon stacks of documents, neatly sealed envelopes and thick binders. On top, a black ledger with numbers filling every page. My pulse raced as I flipped through. Company shares, land rights, offshore accounts. The sums were dizzying. Tens of millions. Hundreds. And then one final page. A consolidated valuation of assets, over $500 million. The air in the cellar pressed against me. The world tilted. Mom hadn't left me scraps. She'd left me an empire hidden in plain sight. And suddenly, every betrayal, the mansion, Ethan, Jacob's smug grin, shifted into something else. They thought I was the loser, but I was holding the throne. I staggered back from the trunk, clutching the ledger like it was on fire. $500 million? My mother, quiet, stubborn, invisible to most, had built something monumental. And she had hidden it all beneath rotting floorboards and frost. I set the ledger down, running my hands over the papers. Oil leases in Alaska, shares in transport companies, mineral rights stretching across frozen land. My mind spun. Why me? Why not Jacob? Then I saw it. A sealed envelope tucked into the corner, my name written in her steady hand. Claire, if you're reading this, then the world has taken everything from you. Good. That's how you'll see the truth. Jacob is greedy. Ethan is weak. But you know loneliness. You know what it costs to survive. That's why you'll guard this better than anyone. This is not money, it's power. And it will destroy you if you wear it like armor. Use it wisely. Mom. The words blurred with my tears. For the first time in years, I felt her presence. Stern but protective. Above me, the storm rattled the hatch. I climbed back to the surface, carrying the ledger in my coat. The cabin didn't feel broken anymore. It felt like a vault, guarding a legacy no one else deserved. But then fear slithered in. Jacob would never believe I got just the cabin. He'd pry. Ethan would sniff around too, driven by guilt or greed. If they found out what lay beneath the dirt. I shivered. I lit a fire in the cracked hearth, watching the flames catch. For the first time since the will was read, warmth filled the room. They thought I was defeated, but I had just begun. The next morning, I woke to the sound of crows circling overhead. Their cries felt like warnings. I pressed the ledger to my chest before hiding it under the loose floorboards beneath the cot. My mother's words still burned in my mind. It's not money, it's power. I walked outside, scanning the tree line. Silence. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I wasn't wrong. Later that afternoon, A truck's tires crackled over the snow-packed path. No one should have been able to find me so quickly. Jacob. He stepped out wearing a sleek coat, sunglasses gleaming even in the pale winter sun. "Nice place, sis," he smirked, his breath curling into the cold. "Figured I'd check on you. See how the little loser's holding up." I forced a smile, tightening my coat. "It's a cabin. Nothing glamorous." He circled the porch, boot stomping, eyes sharp. "Strange," he muttered. "Mom always had a reason for everything. Why you? Why this?" His gaze lingered too long, like he sensed something beneath the snow. I shrugged. "Guess she wanted me out of the way." He studied me, then laughed. "Maybe. Or maybe she left you junk while I got the gold." His arrogance dripped like oil, but when he left I saw it, his hesitation. He didn't believe his own words. He suspected. I leaned against the doorframe, my pulse loud in my ears. If Jacob kept sniffing, Ethan wouldn't be far behind. They wanted me small, defeated. But if they found the truth buried beneath this cabin, I clenched my fists. I had to outsmart them. I had to become the woman my mother knew I could be. That night, the cabin felt smaller, as if Jacob's presence had seeped into the walls. I paced the creaking floorboards, listening to the wind slam against the shutters. My mother's ledger stayed hidden beneath the cot, but it pulsed in my thoughts like a heartbeat. I boiled water on the rusted stove, trying to calm myself when headlights cut through the window. My stomach dropped. Another vehicle. This time it wasn't Jacob. I opened the door and nearly fell backward. Ethan stood on the porch, his hair slicked back, his suit tailored even for the snow. "Claire," he breathed, feigning tenderness. "I came to check on you. You left so abruptly." I laughed cold and sharp. "Check on me? Or check on what Mom left me?" His eyes flicked past me into the cabin, scanning corners. "Look, I made a mistake. Jacob, he doesn't care about me. But us." His voice cracked just enough to sound rehearsed. "We can still fix this." For a moment, the girl I used to be, the one who dreamed of white dresses and shared futures, wanted to believe him. But then I remembered the office, his whisper like a dagger. "You're a joke, Claire." I stepped aside, letting him glimpse the bare, broken cabin. "This is it, Ethan. My glorious inheritance." He frowned, suspicious. "That's it." "Yes." My voice was steady. "If you came for gold, you're in the wrong place." He left soon after, muttering excuses, but I saw it in his eyes, doubt. He didn't buy my lie. When the taillights disappeared, I sank into the chair, breath shaking. Both Jacob and Ethan had been here within days. They were circling me like wolves. And wolves always come back hungrier. The days blurred together, snowstorms hemming me in like prison walls. Yet each night, I felt their shadows closer. Jacob's arrogance, Ethan's desperation. The cabin had become more than shelter. It was a fortress holding the secret they craved. I started to plan. I gathered the documents into waterproof sleeves, memorized key accounts, and burned duplicates my mother had left behind. Flames devoured the papers, smoke curling through the chimney like a warning to anyone watching. "There's nothing left here for you." But my heart pounded with every crack of ice outside. I knew wolves weren't fooled easily. One evening, while checking the perimeter, I found fresh tire tracks pressed into the snow leading toward the treeline. They hadn't knocked. They hadn't announced themselves. Someone had been circling the cabin again, watching. My mother's words rang inside me. "This is power. Guard it wisely." I realized then I couldn't just hide. I had to act. The next morning, I drove into the nearest town, ledger locked in the trunk, and visited a bank my mother had scribbled in her notes. The clerk's eyes widened as he pulled up the account information. Every digit matched the ledger. "Miss Whitmore," he whispered, "do you realize what you control?" I did, and for the first time I felt it. I set up protections, trusts, transfers, legal locks. By the time Jacob or Ethan uncovered the scent, the empire would already be tied to me, untouchable. When I returned to the cabin, I stood in the doorway, wind clawing my hair, and whispered into the storm. You wanted me small. You wanted me broken. But Mom gave me teeth. The wolves were circling, but this time I was ready to bite back. The final storm broke with a howl, tearing branches from trees and rattling the shutters like fists. I sat by the fire, ledger open in my lap, watching flames lick the last of my mother's old receipts. The wolves had circled, but they hadn't realized they were already locked out. By dawn, my phone lit up with frantic calls. Jacob, Ethan, even the lawyer. Their voices cracked through voicemail, threats, accusations, desperate bargaining. That cabin must be worth something. You're hiding it. Jacob roared. Ethan's voice was softer, slippery. Claire, forgive me. We can share it. Start over. I smiled, a bitter, quiet smile, and let the phone fall silent. They didn't understand. The empire wasn't in the cabin. It was already moved, secured, protected under my name. Every paper trail closed, every account sealed. I stepped outside into the crisp Alaskan air. The storm had cleared, leaving the world glittering with ice. The cabin stood battered but proud, like my mother, scarred yet unbroken. For years they had mocked me, chipped at me, called me nothing. But power wasn't in their mansions or their shallow rings. Power was knowing who you are when the world tries to erase you. I whispered into the cold, as if Mom were standing beside me. You were right. Losing everything was the only way I could see what you left me. The wind softened, carrying my words into the trees. I turned back to the cabin, no longer seeing a broken shell, but a crown disguised as wood and stone. Jacob had his mansion, Ethan his lies. Let them choke on their illusions. I had something they'd never hold again. Legacy, strength, freedom.